for the horse's gymnastic conditioning. And in reality, it is the first and foremost a question of submission.
Unhappily, the same scenes are to be seen over and over again in warm-up arenas in Asia, North America or Europe. The pulling, the horse's bulging eyes, flattened ears, whipping tail, improper riding, commercial interests, the temptation of the gold medal, the dollars, the sponsors. Usually, there's an inappropriate background. For our most highly trained dressage horses, the quality of the piaffe represents a final proof of the quality of the training. Only a correctly trained and relaxed, supple horse goes down on its haunches, carries itself with its own positive bodily tension, and presents itself with the correct diagonal footfall. Stepping on the spot, which is caused by negative tension, is indicative of lack of balance and is accompanied by incorrectly placed footfalls, a high croup, a whipping tail, and extreme nodding of the head. We love our horses. The sensation of riding is just fantastic. Riding for a hobby, in tournaments, as a top professional, nothing can beat it. What's happening here? What's happening to competition riding? I've lost interest in going to warm-up arenas. I see more and more long-term damage. Damage which the veterinary surgeons in the overfilled clinics can no longer remedy.
Right now, the horses are too stressed. Too much is being demanded of them, and then they're subjected to violence, to force and coercion. That can't be right.
In the old days, military horses were still sold onto the riding schools at 17 years of age. These days, one sees a horse twice at the Olympics, or just once, and then it disappears. So where are yesterday's superstars? All this uncaring riding, this arrogant, oh well, I'll get there somehow, I'll just get there using the crop. This has to stop.
There was a study done in the Netherlands, and they concluded that about 70% of sport horses these days have to be put to sleep by the time they're 8 years old because of bad riding.
The way one sees all this hand influence, I can't explain it. I don't know why it happens. One ought to ask the rider why he does it. I didn't get the impression that the horse knew what the rider wanted it to do.
Training methods which are based on coercion and submission must be rigorously rejected.
Of course, every Grand Prix rider or international Grand Prix rider sets an example, and I find that a very dangerous thing. For there are lots of recreational riders at A and L level, and when they recognize these bad methods, where curbs and spurs are used, they'll probably try it as well. After all, so-and-so became a Grand Prix rider. And as long as judges give good scores for movements which have not been ridden correctly, which may even cause harm to the horse, as long as they are given good scores, the riders will present them. I cannot appeal to trainers and riders and say, ride your horses more gently, make it calmer, when judges fail to give credit for that, when I cannot win like that.
It should not be possible for individual riders, personalities, promoters, and functionaries to influence the selection of judges. We must get rid of the invitation principle. Our associations must finally create the right conditions so that our judges can appear at tournaments as personalities with their own opinions and can ensure that we see the art of riding at its peak. Our judges are competent enough, but they also need the support and backing up of our associations. We have to turn our backs on commercialized shows and spectacular events and return to good classical equitation.
Vision, appeal, and closing remarks.
I would recommend to young, ambitious riders that when they're working with their horse and training and preparing for competitions, that they always keep in mind what's best for their horse, because really, in the end, what's best for their horse is going to be what's best for them.
Equestrianism is dependent on its public, and so of course every single person who goes to an equestrian event has the means of influencing what happens there.
I do believe that a change in attitudes in equestrianism is needed, so that we can see more contented horses at tournaments, so that the public can see that dressage is a thing of beauty, that free presentation can be attractive as well. Not just force and coercion with unsatisfied horses. That is not what we want to see. That has to change, and that will change.
And that is the time at which classical equestrianism begins, which has developed in so many different ways in the course of the history of horses, riding, and mankind.
Will it remain just a utopian fantasy? An Olympic champion horse which fulfills its tasks confidently, with a supple body chewing calmly at the bit, which can stand serenely and then rise energetically from its hindquarters, its upper neck a stretched line, with ground-covering steps to perform an extended trot or a diagonal, which rises up with a dynamic surge from the hindquarters to perform a perfectly balanced piaffe, with a well-supported, relaxed back, free neck, and correctly placed diagonal sequence of footfalls. It is inconceivable that we will never see such a sight in our most prestigious sporting events again. We wish to see confident personalities in our organizations who allow the judges to make impartial decisions, so that at last they can apply the regulations with objectivity and resolution. Equestrianism at its highest level must regain its place as an art to which we are glad to pay our respects. We are all the advocates of the horses. We must be prepared to speak out and to let our actions speak for us. It is up to us to stand up for the horses and simply leave a tournament when the horses we see are tense and at the mercy of the reins. Every one of us can make a contribution towards liberating horses from this vicious circle. It will take courageous and energetic action to ensure that equestrianism regains its rightful status as a fascinating and admirable sport.